Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, we got some big news going on with Lane Kiffin and Dabo Swinney. Dabo, freaking Dabo. How is he involved in this? So let's get into this. So yeah, Kiffin, we are hearing that the offer to him, and this is a rumor, could be 10-year, $120 million big ones. That does not shock me. It really does. That may shock you because it's just so overwhelming, but really that's probably the going rate for a successful coach like Lane Kiffin. Also, there are rumors of Dabo being interested in the job, moving to Auburn. I don't think he's real happy at Clemson right now for some reason. And here's a story. It says, is Clemson Dabo Swinney entering the mix for the Auburn football coach? It says, rumors are swirling around Dabo Swinney and the Tigers. It says people are starting to lose their sanity down there on the plains. It says a new face has emerged in the running for the Tigers head coaching position, and he hails from an unlikely place, Clemson's Dabo Swinney. According to our sources, also confirmed by a few outlets, we are not the first to mention Swinney and Auburn. Dabo's representatives have been having conversations with Auburn University since around last Saturday. It says Lance Taylor of the Next Round discussed similar things on a show. It says, while this does not mean the Tigers are going to hire him, nor does it mean they are currently trying to hire him, all that has been said is that their representatives have been in conversations with Auburn. Talking about Dabo's representatives. It says things are quiet right now, nothing new on Auburn's other candidates. It said we've trimmed our list to 4 with questions surrounding actual Swinney interest in the position. They've got an updated hot board. Of course, Lane Kiffin's number 1. Dabo number 2. That's surprising to me. I don't think I'd put him number 2. Hugh Freeze would be my number 2 on there. And plus, he's gettable. And he's gettable for a reasonable price. And then Dan Lanning at Oregon. But Dan Lanning has supposedly knocked down these rumors. But if they start offering him big money, you never know. So it seems like Auburn's having a fight for which nerd to hire. Is it going to be Lane Kiffin or Dabo Swinney?
Where are they? I think they're talking about us. No way.
Yep, battle for the nerds. I think either one of them be a good hire. I would hire Lane Kiffin over Dabo Swinney. That's just my opinion, because Lane Kiffin has had success in the SEC at a school where they typically don't have success, whereas Dabo is in the ACC, that's the easiest conference on the planet, just about, other than maybe what, the Big 12 out west. Isn't that the Big 12? I don't know. They should be called the Little 12. Now let's get into this rumor about Lane Kiffin and this offer. And I don't think this 10-year, $120 million offer is that far off base. And this comes from the Fly War Eagle site. It says Auburn football message board user claims to know next head coach contract details. The Bunker message board for Auburn rivals page has some intense debates going on. You can imagine they're going crazy in Auburn right now talking about all this. It says one message board user is claiming to have had a discussion with someone in the know regarding the contract details of the next head coach of Auburn football. Currently tabbed to be Lane Kiffin, according to anyone following the coaching search. I would agree with that. It says the message board Geniuses, a Twitter page chronicling the celebrations, the crazy, and everything in between, the various It says, hear ye, Lane Kiffin, Auburn, 10-year, $120 million offer. It says, doing the simple $120 million figure, dividing by the 10-year contract length shared, Lane is going to make $10 million, a smidge lower what Nick Saban made in 22, which was 10.95 on his most recent contract. And obviously they would start him at 10, and it would have to work its way up to over 12 over the next 10 years, which that's not surprising to me. Because understand, he's making close to $8 million now with incentives at Ole Miss, but Ole Miss can only do a 4-year contract. That's state law. So they can't do a 10-year deal. And if they're at 8, if you're going to get him to leave Ole Miss, it's going to have to be above 8. And you know Ole Miss is probably willing to change that contract. It'll be 4 years, but they're willing to probably go up to 9 or 10 million. So to get him to go to Auburn, they're going to have to start him out at 10. And I've said that for a while. It's going to take 10 to get Lane to move. And there's no guarantee Ole Miss won't match that. And the truth is, Ole Miss ought to probably consider matching it, and he may not even stay if they do, because there's another issue that goes along with that besides the 4-year contract deal. And for Ole Miss, the reality is they've got a problem.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
That's right. They've got a problem. That's the NIL money. And this is from Fan Nation Auburn Daily. It says the NIL collective at Auburn is 10 times what it is at Ole Miss. 10 times. Says what was once considered an area of a deficiency is now considered a strength on the Plains. Auburn's NIL collective, which is known as On to Victory, has made massive strides over the last few months and is now primed for when a new head coach takes the reins. As of right now, most believe that head coach Lane Kiffin will be that person. ESPN's Chris Lowe said here's why he thinks he'll move to the Plains. Says the NIL collective at Auburn is 10 times what it is at Ole Miss. That's why I think ultimately Lane would go. Says the Tigers have $13 million saved up in the university partner collective, On to Victory. It says the growth is not where it needs to be in order for Ole Miss to be competitive, so they don't have a lot. And then it talks about the state law, the state of Mississippi, that just goes into that. The 4-year, actually 4.5 years is the max they can go, whereas, like I say, they can do 10 years at Auburn. As Lowe said, I think there have been some preliminary discussions with representatives from both sides, but that's why ultimately I think Lane would go, not because he doesn't like Ole Miss, but because he sees the opportunity at Auburn with the NIL collective. That gives him or any coach the best chance to win at the highest level. And I can tell you this, if he leaves Ole Miss, there's going to be a meltdown down there in Oxford.
What a great honor to be able to introduce.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly. I have very little doubt of that because I remember what happened when Lane left the Vols, and like I said, he didn't even have near the success here that he has had at Ole Miss. I mean, look, they got to be loving the fact they're winning 10 games a year, which is they've almost never done. So he's brought an excitement to that area that they've almost never had. If and when he leaves, it's going to get ugly, and it's probably going to be a real mess. So my suggestion to Ole Miss is to get the money out and keep him, because if you've got to go from 8 to 10, 11, or 12, that's really only $2 to $4 million more to keep a winner, as opposed to you lose him, and now you got to go find a coach at the last minute. Everybody's going to leave. They're going to transfer out, and then you've got an NIL deficit, and you've got to try to find a coach who wants to come into that mess. It's not going to be easy. Is it really worth $2 to $4 million a year to lose that level of success? Because a winning ball club, especially in college sports, helps your city so much. It's unbelievable. Ask Knoxville what Josh Heupel's done for Knoxville. I mean, you go over there on a weekend when there's a ball game, and the whole place is teeming with people spending money from all over the state. You try to go to Calhoun's. I mean, they're falling into the river at that place. I mean, it's crazy how busy it is around there, and everybody's in good spirits in Knoxville. It literally affects the mood of the entire state. So $2 to $4 million to keep that. If I'm Ole Miss, I'm going to do what it takes to keep him. And if I got to go to 10, 11, or 12, that's what I do. I know that sounds crazy, but if you want one of the best coaches, we're going to have to do that with Josh Heupel. I can go ahead and tell you his salary is probably going to double this year. Moving into next year, he's probably going to be looking at 8 to 10 at least, and an 8 to 10 year deal. And I think Danny White's smart enough to know that. I mean, it's becoming an arms race, and you can either get involved in it and try to win it, or you can just fall back and be one of these little teams that gets stepped on every week. I don't want to be part of that. I'll go ahead and tell you, and I know you don't either. So, and it's in the whole scheme of things, is it a lot of money? As an individual, yes, I think that's a lot of money. But when you look at the whole collective of it, it's very little for what it means to your state. So if I'm Ole Miss, I'm going to show him the money.
Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money!
That's right. Anyway, all right, folks, just a little update on the Kiffin, and now Dabo's entered the sweepstakes. I don't know how serious he is, probably about as serious as he is wearing that hat, but he's obviously – there's some discomfort down there in Clemson for some reason, and maybe he's not feeling appreciated because they've been a little below their normal standards. That can happen with a coach. We've seen that a few times. I remember when Nick Saban had to get on the crowd and to explain to him, hey, you'd better stay at the game or maybe I just do something else. And they were like, oh, yes, sir, Mr. Saban, whatever you want, sir, we'll stay with you. Can we shine your shoes for you? I remember Saban getting on them. I'm sure you do too. Anyway, hope you like this content. If you do, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything. I've only been doing this about 4 months, and I could use some subscribers. I sure could. Anyway, I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.